Hi there, I'm Emily Schaller, and you're watching the RoxyF Boltcast. Before we get started, there's a few things we need to go over. First off, nothing on this podcast should be considered medical advice. Medical advice should only come from your doctor. Views expressed on this podcast are solely opinions of the guest and not necessarily opinions of myself or the RoxyF Foundation. Enjoy this episode of the RoxyF Boltcast. This episode of the RoxyF Boltcast is sponsored by Vertex. All right, we're going. I'm excited. Let's get this ripping. We spoke before, but I'm so happy to speak again. Nicole Kohr, the famous Nicole Kohr here. Yeah. Let's jump into your CF diagnosis. It's an easy one for all of us to get into, but let's hear about it. When were you diagnosed? And then do you have any family history of CF that you know of?
So no, there's no family history of CF.
Okay.
I was sick since birth, but diagnosed at age 5. So I had misdiagnoses from 0 to 5, ranging from asthma, reactive airway, bronchiolitis, you name it, I had it also, but it was incorrect. And a big factor of that too was the fact that I am brown. And although my mother is Irish, which is like one of the key factors in having CF as of like the 90s, they were like, you can't possibly have CF. Your mom just isn't sucking your nose enough. And so, so finally, 5 years old, 1997, a doctor named Dr. Chundru, she was a random new doctor in a pediatric walk-in clinic. And we took a chance on her, and she listened to my mom. And she said, you mind if I lick your daughter? And I was like,
You got the lick test?
And my mom was like, why? And she was like, I just need to lick your daughter. And she was like, diagnostically? And she was like, yes, diagnostically. This is not like a lure, this is not a kink. She didn't say that, but in my mind, that's the memory. So she licked my head and was like, salty, I'm going to put her in for a sweat test today. And then I was hospitalized the next day for my first tune-up.
No way. I've only heard people like myself ask people to lick us because we're salty, but for a doctor to ask for the lick is kind of wild.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so your symptoms leading up though, did you have failure to thrive?
I did.
Were you, so head to toe, you were obviously again pre-newborn screening. So your mom just had to fight, she knew something was wrong.
Yep.
So what were those symptoms?
So I had very, very thin, frail arms and legs, but I had a huge distended belly. My bowel movements were terrifying, and she described them as alien versus predator, in that anytime my 3-pound body would have a bowel movement, it was essentially like a Thanksgiving dinner bowel movement, in that I had to I would drop 5 pounds because I brought this magical amount of bowel. She was like, I don't think that's normal, but again, if it's the 90s and you go to some kind of, mommy and me family group setting, the result of her venting about that is just, you're a bad mom. Obviously,
exactly.
You're doing something wrong, right? And so she had to compartmentalize that and just know in her gut, I know my kid.
Yep, exactly.
And something's wrong. And thank God she did, because if I didn't get treated with whatever medication was on the market at the time, there were 2 in 1997, I surely would be dead.
So then, first tune-up upon diagnosis, and then how often did you need IV antibiotics, and what was your childhood like? So you lived with your mom, no siblings, right?
Correct.
What were you up to? Were you an active childhood?
So between the ages of kindergarten and 5th grade, I had the average only child syndrome experience.
Okay.
Right? So if you're familiar at all with Gilmore Girls, she and I had a very best friend relationship, and I am a very self-blaming person. I'm very type A, and I'm also a ham. So between the three, I was pretty much always putting on a very realistic performance of some recent news event in my living room.
Oh, I love that.
And
oh my
because
gosh.
I was always homesick from school, pretty much the only media that I knew was like stuff you would watch when you're homesick from school.
Absolutely.
I was very into Jerry Springer. I was very into anything on TV land, Three's Company, Mr. Ed, The Golden Girls. That was like my foundation of how to be a human. And naturally, Shirley Temple.
So your health growing up, what was it stable? So the 2 medications, I think I know what you're talking about. Thankfully, you were born or diagnosed when those were out. How did your illness progress, and did it get to a point where you were out of school a ton? And did it limit your activities? Talk us through like your CF progression.
Sure. So basically from kindergarten through 5th grade, I had a pretty normal childhood, other than the fact that socially something was wrong, right? But that's not CF's fault. That's just that I'm odd. But hospital-wise, I didn't really have many tune-ups until 5th grade. I had a vest. I was one of the first CF patients to use the vest through a clinical trial.
That's cool.
But that wasn't really based on how sick I was. I mostly used it to impress all of the people in my class. Like they would be like, hey, Nicole's house is a roller coaster. And then I'd be like, yeah, come on up. Like it was more so like to gain friends.
Yeah, that's cool.
But then in 5th grade, that's when my health started to decline. That's when time in between hospital stays grew shorter and shorter. But
yeah,
my theme of life pre-transplant was just like, never give up, push through.
Yeah.
You've got this. Don't let CF, become your identity or stop you from doing something. So my pattern was I would do like a bunch of community theater shows until I needed a tune-up, and then community shows and then tune-up.
which I think that is such a trait for, I think, people with CF, is we're like, we're fine, and the next thing you know, we're laying on the ground and need to have IV antibiotics. Yeah. Was it hard to perform as your CF progressed? Singing, acting, stamina? Did you have to like hide coughs? What was it like? Let's hear it.
Yes, so I did not tell anyone except maybe 1 or 2 friends that I even had CF up until like senior year of high school. And then college, I went back to being completely masked.
Oh, wow.
It benefited me in terms of my theatrical career because I was an even playing field for getting roles.
Right.
I was often the comic relief, right? Like if I did Beauty and the Beast, they would cast me as LeFou. Like that's just like who, or I was like an animal or a fairy or a tree. Like never have I played like a human female ever. So in that way, I was very good at being a character, even throughout normal life, right? I was also very much a people pleaser. And because I was odd, I was pretty desperate for friendship. And if not friendship, just to be liked or to have some kind of superlative of like smartest, best dressed, coolest, funny, something, anything.
Yeah.
So I would just meld myself into whatever I thought that audience wanted. And that made me a great performer.
Were you planning, like what did in your head, because you were putting on this show, if you will, of I'm fine, I'm running myself right. I love performing, I love being this, but inside, did you recognize, like, wow, this is, what I'm showing is a little different than how I'm feeling, and should I plan for a future? Did you graduate from high school and then plan to go to college, or what was that? Because I was like, I'm gonna move to New York and also work on Broadway. Like that was my thing. And then obviously didn't happen because I was so sick, and I was like, I'm gonna stay in Detroit then. And my whole thing changed, but I kind of had this thought of a future, and then that was reality checked very soon after high school. So what was that like for you?
Very, very similar experience. If you're familiar with spoon theory, you know, how much energy you have for the day. Let's say you have 10 spoons, right? being social and using those characters or whatever I was doing took the remainder of my spoons. Like that, even more than being a compliant CF patient or enduring symptoms, covering all of it up was the most exhausting thing. And despite that, I loved theater so much. My goal all the way through high school and approaching college was to have a BFA in musical theater.
Yeah.
And I had trained so hard, like I had done everything right. You know, I had done the course of action to lead to a career on Broadway. And because all of my friends were also in the theater community, it was just natural that we were all going to go to certain schools to audition and blah, blah, blah from there. However, my senior year of high school, my mother and I had to have a very frank discussion about the reality of my future. And that was a very hard discussion for me because she had been such an amazing support network and such a brilliant pep talker that I truly believed I was invincible. And so my mother sat me down and said, I realize this is what you're after, and I support whatever your final decision is. However, I do want you to take into consideration what 10, 20, 30 years down the road could look like. Do you think a Broadway producer would be cool with you being out last minute for a tune-up over and over and over again? Do you think you would qualify for insurance as a performer? Do you think you would be able to support yourself financially once you're off of my insurance and have to buy insurance out of pocket? I was a bit annoyed at the time because it was the first time that she didn't just blindly support me. But I also appreciated her honesty, like, yes, that is something to think about. Which was, again, annoying because it's like, this is my dream, and it's supposed to be, you know, like, if I put all of my best into it, then it will come to be, right? But like, that's, unfortunately, with chronic illness, that's not always the case. And no matter how hard we work, no matter how compliant we are, no matter how well we did everything we were supposed to, we might still end up with a dream that has to pivot. And so that's essentially what happened. I was doing a performance of Peter Pan. I was Tiger Lily.
That's one.
I was in the bathroom and the stage manager called 5, so I said, thank you, 5. And for whatever reason, that moment when I said, thank you, 5, in lieu of the meaning, you know, I'll be out in 5 minutes, I'm aware, that's my cue, I thought of it more as death. I thought of it more as I might have 5 years left. And in that moment, I took that time to kind of, am I being selfish? Am I being unrealistic? I also had a beaker that I kept in my dance bag, and I would always bring it in with me to the bathroom, and I would secretly have hemoptysis, or cough blood, into that beaker without telling anyone, even my mom, because I knew she would worry. And if it got to halfway of my little beaker, then I would be like, maybe I should do an extra nebulizer treatment. And so again, with the thank you 5, I looked at my jar of blood before I went on stage, thinking about my future career, and just thought, okay, have I officially surpassed a boundary? Am I willing to achieve my dream at the cost of my life? And so literally in that moment in the bathroom, I chose no. And so I went on to do my last performance on stage, literally ever, without anyone knowing. And so when I bowed at that performance, I was an emotional wreck. I ended up getting college acceptance letters from musical theater programs, but I instead went
gosh.
for more of a business route, and I got my degree in public relations. So that's,
Okay.
so it was still performing in a sense, because you had public
Yeah.
speaking and media.
Yeah.
And I was thankful to have a bit of a well-rounded communication performing career, but
Yeah, right.
that was tough.
Was that 5-minute call, was that after the conversation you had with your mom?
It was. In fact, we'd had it several days in a row, just kind of reiterating different points. And we would always get to the theater early so that I could secretly do like one of my travel nebulizers in the car and get all my coughs out. That way I wasn't like, I could properly mask once I got inside. And I just remember us arguing in the parking lot, which we never did. We did not argue. Like that was a new experience for us. For me to just be very much in teenage mode and saying like, why are you not supporting my dream?
Yeah, we always, like when I talk to other people with CF, it's like that moment when CF became real for you, and it could be when you were on the playground running to the swings in 3rd grade, you start coughing and realize, oh, I'm gonna cough the rest of my life. This with you is so significant, but also symbolic with your future. And then I'm just thinking about your mom having that conversation with you, how hard that was. I mean, for you, it's gotta be one of the most important conversations you've had, one of the most, because you've had many, but like a hard one for her, because she was that champion and cheerleader for you, and she knows what your dream was, and she had to be the one to say like, she didn't say no, she left it up to you, but man, that's tough.
Yeah, I mean, I had to leave the car and walk into the back of a theater knowing she was tearing up in the car, which is not, that's my mommy. Like, that's not okay.
Okay, can we talk about your transplant? Remind me, well, all of us, when it was, and what was that process? So you had to pivot your life to change from theater to advertising, marketing, communications, all of those things.
Yep.
And then how long after you started college did your health really decline to the point where you needed to consider transplant? And what was that discussion like? Who told you to consider it, and what did you think?
Okay. So my mom and I returned to the relationship that we'd always had from like freshman year all the way through the middle of my junior year. She was supportive, we talked every day. She would even come upwards of once a week to clap me and just to refill medication, do my laundry. I mean, she was just world's best mom award, right? However, in the middle of my junior year, I was unfortunately diagnosed with Mycobacterium abscessus. And that took my lung function and cut it in half. So I was at somewhere around 40%, which was a significant drop. I felt it in my energy, I felt it in my lungs. I had to do 6 months of 3 round-the-clock IV antibiotics, and I had to have a second awful conversation with my mother. And I remember them so clearly because they were so infrequent. Like, I can count on my fingers the amount of times we've had like a bad conversation. And so I remember I didn't know about the diagnosis yet, but I had just met this really cute guy who inevitably turned out to be my husband. We were both recently single, and he was my new like drive for just like doing my meds and looking cute. And I knew I wasn't feeling well, but you know, like that happens and whatever, ignore it. So we met at Applebee's, and that was famously the place where we would like go to cry in our car. You know, like we would just sit in the Applebee's parking lot and like vent about our day, like 2 lunatic women in just hysterically crying in the car. So in lieu of doing that, because we pulled in and I like undid my seatbelt, like, okay, time to cry. But she was like, let's go in. And I was like, to eat? You know? So we go in and she orders some, like all of my favorite foods. It was very strange.
No.
There were so many red flags. She was ignoring like things I was saying. So inevitably I was like, all right, what's going on? You know, who died, who's dying, what, you know, like what's, so she was like, so your social worker from the CF team called, and it came back positive with Mycobacterium abscessus, and she started to cry.
Oh.
The poor waiter at Applebee's. And so we're back and forth, and she was like, I spoke with Erin before talking to you because we knew you'd freak out, and we think it's best for now if you stop going to class and come home, and we get you right in the hospital and we really take care of this thing because this is a scary one. And for the second time in my life, I was furious. I was like, all right, I already gave up my number one thing. I have just now told you about this really cute guy that I'm really into. My career in college is going well. I'm having a great social life. I'm practicing self-care, or, you know,
Ish.
as much as you do in college, right? And now you're telling me because of an infection, which I always get,
Yep.
that I should
Exactly.
drop out of college and go home and quit. No. I'll do IV antibiotics. I will run them in my dorm. Like, what's different? I don't understand. And we had this big back and forth.
Okay.
And then emotionally, when she dropped me back off at the dorm because I refused to like further the conversation, my emotional support system pivoted to my, at that moment, boyfriend.
Okay.
Because he had little to no understanding about my health.
Yep.
Like, he knew I had something, but I was not forthcoming about what it was, how bad it could be, what I had just been diagnosed with. So he was just like, you got this cold, da, 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 da. You know, he was then what I needed to hear.
What? Yep.
So then it was just this very like, it was a moment of growth in terms of like, okay, now you're in adulthood and you once again have to make a decision between like your dream, your health, and they conflict. So luckily, I did manage to do the 6 month of round the clock drugs. Yep. I managed my full course load at the detriment of my health, inevitably, because while I beat Myco, I ran myself into the ground again. And so we graduated. I worked at Princeton Theological Seminary in their communication office shortly thereafter. I had a quick vocal cord surgery right before that. You know how people do, like over the summer.
A couple minutes.
And he enjoyed that because I couldn't talk for like 3 months, and he was just like, you know, it's like little to no Shirley Temple belting at 3 in the morning. So he had a nice break there. Both went to work, and then 3 years into work, coasting along. By that point, my mom, Jared, and I were living together, which is its own version of Three's Company, but that's a completely different podcast episode. I was at my work desk in my cubicle, and I had my handy dandy beaker out, and it was,
that beaker.
boy oh boy, was that full of blood. And it had once again just kind of become the norm to overdo it. So eventually I made the choice to go on short-term disability, which turned into long-term disability, which turned into Social Security disability.
Oh yeah.
Once that paperwork came in, it was mid to late 2018. And my husband was like, you know what, I think we should book a trip to Disney World. You, me, your mom, my parents, because we've been through it, and I think we just need like something happy, something big to look forward to. So I was like, yay! So we packed me and my, 100 oxygen tanks, because by then I was completely dependent on oxygen. At 6 liters, I was maxed out on the amount of oxygen you can have. That was O2D2, who I lovingly named after Star Wars because I'm a nerd.
Of course you do.
So me and my 100 O2D2s, my boyfriend, my mom, and his parents got on a plane to Disney. He, in a wheelchair in the 105-degree weather, wheeled me around Disney World Orlando and inevitably proposed to me. So then we were engaged and we were going to start planning our wedding. So this was September 2018, engaged. And then in October 2018, I stopped breathing at home. So my husband and my mom had to rush me to the hospital where they had to revive me at the Starbucks in the lobby of the hospital because they didn't even have time to get me to a room. Inevitably got me to the ICU where they had me on a full, like the mask that exhales oxygen and gives you, or CO2 and gives you oxygen, because I wasn't doing it on my own any longer, which was odd because I had declined so slowly that I suppose I'd adapted to what that felt like, so I didn't know how far I'd gone. So at this point they tested my lung function and I was about 15% lung function. I weighed about 80 pounds. But in my mind, I was like, this is just a really bad one, but I will, boy, oh boy, will I come back from this. Yeah, like I was just I never saw it as a long-term scary thing. I was just like, once again, big bump in the road, but you guys, we're gonna get married, this is gonna be great. And that was the first time that my doctor, my team, since my diagnosis at age 5, was like, I think we need to get you over to Penn. And I was like, oh, why? And they were like, because we don't have a transplant team here. And so I think the three of us hearing that were just like, wait. It went from 0 to 100 in one conversation. So we did go to Penn for a lung transplant referral. But in my mind, it was more like, we're just gonna go and they're gonna tell me like, you're way too early and like, this is just, you're gonna have a rebound and boy, oh boy, we hope we get an invite to the wedding. And so I go in there and I'm like cracking jokes, and just, I don't know, doing impressions or something. And the lung transplant surgeon comes in and I remember so clearly, because my mom and Jared, so my fiance at the time, had stepped out of the room they'd been there for hours. So I was like, go grab like a drink or something. And the surgeon came in and he was like, so how are you feeling? And I was like, pretty good. I can't wait to get home and we're gonna be, I've got a lot of wedding planning to do and I'm just curious how long this will take and blah, 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 blah. And he was like, I don't think you're leaving, honey. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, you seem to have this idea that, this is just kind of a bad exacerbation and you're going to get off oxygen. And he was like, I think we need to have a very frank conversation about how much time you have left.